Wince at the cost. Petrol prices rose by 6p a litre. That was just in May, and that is the biggest monthly increase since the RAC began recording prices, and that was 18 years ago.
In what it called a hellish month for drivers in the UK, the average price of diesel increased by more than 6p a litre from April. Petrol almost hit £1.30 a litre. That's the biggest monthly increase since 2000. And the hike at the pumps means a 55-litre family car now costs around £3.30 more to fill up than it did last month.
Let's talk to James Spencer, who's Managing Director at Portland Fuel. Very good morning to you. James, you better explain to us, just so people understand where you're coming from. Portland Fuel, what are you, what do you do?
So we're fuel traders. We tend to supply the commercial users, so the truck and bus industry and heating oil side of the business, and generally fuel for industry. We don't really supply the petrol station side of things, although of course they're all interrelated. So
can you give us a snapshot of why the prices have risen so quickly?
Yeah, well, so the backdrop is that since January, really, people have been wincing every time they've been to the petrol station, because since January the price of oil, price of fuel has been going up. That's mainly because of OPEC production cuts. So OPEC have successfully starved global markets of oil in a successful attempt to push up oil. At the same time, you can't overlook the fact that demand continues to grow. So last year, the world consumed 95 million barrels per day of oil. That was more oil than the world has ever consumed in its history. And this year, we will consume 97 million barrels a day. So demand continues to grow by about 3% this year, and supply is failing to keep up with that. So this has really been the backdrop, if you like, to what happened in May, which was largely on the back of President Trump's announcement that sanctions on Iranian oil would be reapplied.
OK, so let's look to the future. Where is it like? Is it likely to stay going up as much as this?
Well, clearly, Louise, I get asked that question a lot, and if I did know the answer, I'd probably be on my own Caribbean island drinking very expensive champagne, but nobody really knows.
Yep.
The best thing you can do is kind of weigh up the factors that push it up and versus the factors that are going to bring it down. It is possible, for example, that demand slows up. Basic economic theory says that if prices of goods are very high, people will buy less of them. But it doesn't really work with commodities, and if it does, it's quite a slow effect. So the best kind of hope for prices coming down at the moment is that OPEC, they're meeting in a couple of weeks, that OPEC will decide to ease up on the production cuts.
Right, but this is all bad news when you go and try and fill up your car.
It's definitely bad news, but as I said at the beginning of this interview, prices have been going up since January. May was fairly turbocharged, so it was very noticeable. The UK consumes about 50 billion litres of petrol and diesel, and for every 1 pence increase, that's £500 million added to the fuel bill. So if you take the prices there, 6 to 8 pence a litre, you're talking the UK is spending about £3 to £4 billion per annum more on fuel than last year.
Periodically, we have these rises, and it becomes a big story for a moment in time. Can people shop around? I mean, can you mitigate the cost of filling up your tank at all, or is that sort of mythology around?
Well, you can certainly shop around, and there's always people cheaper than others. So there's the cheaper service station in your local area, but you can't get away from the wholesale price. All fuel is based on the wholesale price, and it will never be lower than that. Our business does a lot of fixing of prices, so we give people prices for 12 months, sometimes 2 years, so they can hold their prices, but that's not really available to the consumer, unfortunately.
OK, James Spencer.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thanks for everybody getting in touch as well. So many of you are really cross about it. People, and with suggestions as well, people need to use supermarket fuel, not the big petrol companies. Drive the prices down by going to supermarkets. That's Jay's idea.